Thanks for tuning in on a Wednesday night. It's Mike Mutzel. Very grateful that you all are here. I came across an interesting article, and I would like to unpack it with you today about a mysterious rise in myocardial infarction-related deaths. And this is the 50-cent word term for talking about a heart attack. A myocardial infarction is a heart attack, and there has been a rise in heart attacks in individuals between the ages of 18 and 44 here in the U.S., even through the Omicron wave. Now, this is important. We're going to talk a lot about later in this show about muscle, the importance of skeletal muscle. A new paper actually just came out showing that loss of muscle mass more significantly predicts the onset of a heart attack compared to gain in fat mass, meaning that muscle is very protective. And, one of the things that health experts said was very important for young people to do is to stay home, to isolate, to avoid coming in contact with other biohazards, i.e. people, because people are just terribly dangerous and they might contain a pathogen. So I think we're now seeing the consequences of our very poorly executed public health strategies here. And we're seeing a massive excess deaths, unfortunately, in young people. The title of the study that we're going to talk about today is Excess Acute Myocardial Infarction Associated Mortality During the Pandemic Through the Recent Omicron Outbreak. Now, I'm going to share with you some stats and we're going to get into it. But as always, my friends, if you're here live, hit that like button. Thank you for leaving a comment. Thank you for sharing this video if you get some value out of it. And if you can hear me okay, just let me know in the comments. I really like to engage with all of you that are here live, which is fantastic. We have quite a few folks hopping on. Thank you for being here, friends. Very grateful that you are here. So let's dive right into it. So we're going to talk about this fact right here. And so, the way that we can look at excess deaths is by looking at overall mortality statistics throughout this season. We know that cardiovascular disease-related mortality increases during the cold and flu season, naturally during the winter months, and that's what you're seeing here. But what you're seeing in the orange in this image is the excess deaths. And what we're looking at here specifically, my friends, is the bottom part. If you look at the lower thirds here in this image, you are seeing a massive increase in excess mortality in individuals between the ages of 25 and 44. Okay. Now, you might be wondering, what is that from? Okay. I know a lot of you know where we're going with this, but I'm just going to go with the route of exercise, sedentary activity, encouraging healthy, low-risk people to stay indoors. That led to a lot of stress, psychosocial stress, and the reduced physical activity and possibly muscle loss, fat gain, could compromise the cardiovascular system. Of course, there are other things that also have been shown to compromise the cardiovascular system in people of this age group, but let's just go with exercise and keep it really safe for the platform here, okay? So this is what you're seeing, my friends, is a massive increase in the excess deaths amongst individuals between the ages of 25 and 44. Now, statistically, this is the age category of individuals who actually have amongst the lowest infectious fatality rate for COVID-19. So does it make sense? And by the way, these are COVID-19 independent deaths. That's what I want to focus in. One of these images here shows that. But these are COVID-19 independent myocardial infarctions and deaths related to heart attacks that have occurred even throughout the Omicron wave. Okay? Now, you might be saying, well, is it global warming? Is it climate change? Well, I really am coming from the stance that it was a bad idea to force young, healthy people to isolate in their homes, close gyms, close parks, close fitness centers, discourage physical activity. Okay, I think that really led to some of the consequences that we're seeing herein. And I want to continue and dive into this. First, if you have any health-related questions, if you're here live, leave them in the chat bar. We're going to do some live Q&A very, very soon. As always, friends, thank you for the like button. Thank you for sharing this video if you find this information helpful. And let's dive into what the scientists find. They say before the pandemic, acute myocardial infarction associated mortality rates decreased across all age subgroups. These trends reversed during the pandemic with significant rise seen for the youngest age females and males, even through the most recent period of the Omicron surge between the fall of 2021 and March of 2022. The semi-annual percentage change in the youngest and middle age group in the acute myocardial infarction associated mortality increased by 5.3% and 3.4% respectively. The excess death defined as the difference between observed and the predicted mortality rates, was the most pronounced for individuals between the ages of 25 and 44 years old, ranging from 23 to 34% for the youngest compared to 13 to 18% for the oldest age groups. So what that means, my friends, is depending upon the age and subgroup, there was up to a 34% increased observation in excess deaths related to acute myocardial infarctions, having a heart attack. Now, we're seeing these funny posts from mainstream media outlets. Well, it's climate change. Oh, if you play video games and things like this. But really, I think what we're now finding, and this new study found that loss of muscle mass more accurately predicts a cardiovascular event in the future. I really think that part of the rise in the excess deaths related to myocardial infarction could be that we have forced so many people to be more sedentary, to gain weight, fat, and lose muscle tissue, and become stressed out and the like. And so, interesting facts here. They continue on here. Our study revealed that the excess rise in acute myocardial infarction associated death occurring in the United States during the COVID-19 pandemic has been especially pronounced in younger than older adults, with a sex disparity that has become especially evident during the most recent fourth epoch marked by the Omicron surge. While the recent reduction in non-COVID-19 associated deaths suggests the efficacy of policies designed to curtail the impact of the pandemic, acute myocardial infarction associated deaths remains in excess, meaning that the policies that we created, encouraging people to stay home, discouraging people from getting physical activity, discouraging young people from becoming social. Actually, you know what a major factor linked with developing heart disease is depression. A lot of people don't know that when you're depressed because you're socially isolated, you're out of work, you're stuck at home, your family and so forth is coercing you to not visit with other people, that can actually increase your risk for having a heart attack. A lot of people don't know that mental health is intimately connected to health of the heart. In fact, the heart sends more messages from the heart to the brain than vice versa. A lot of people don't know that. The heart is much more than just an organ pumping blood around. But since there's many of you here now, I do want you to focus here on the lower thirds of this image. And we're going to focus in on the orange. This is the excess mortality that is above and beyond what is historically observed. And why are we seeing this in individuals between the ages of 25 and 44? Why are we seeing this? And most importantly, where's the media coverage about this? Because I'm old enough to remember during this time in 2020 and during the spring of 2020, when every young and healthy person got sick from COVID, it was front page news, CNN, MSNBC, all the outlets talked about, see, this young healthy person, they didn't take the pandemic seriously, they got COVID and they got really sick. So why aren't we talking about the young, healthy people that are dying from a heart attack, which is largely preventable? Why aren't we then looking at our own policies, encouraging people to stay home, closing gyms, fitness centers, parks, playgrounds, and the like, which I believe is one of the major factors that have increased mortality from heart attacks in these individuals. Okay. I'm going to get to your questions very soon, but let's continue on with this paper right here, a fascinating paper, and we did a really deep dive on this, and I'm going to post that video later this week. But I just want to give you a little premise here of what this study found. This was a study in 1,000 subjects, and what they found over the course of a 5-year period is loss of muscle more significantly and more accurately predicts a future cardiovascular related event like a heart attack or having an arrhythmia or a stroke and such, than does an increase in fat mass. And essentially what that means is skeletal muscle is more cardioprotective than is excessive adiposity or fat tissue. The title of the paper, in case you're just listening and not watching here on our live session, and again, thanks for being here, the title is 2-Year Changes in Body Composition and Future Cardiovascular Events, a Longitudinal Community-Based Study. And this was just a fascinating study. We broke down the hazard ratios, but essentially, if you start to lose muscle and gain fat, that is the worst case scenario in terms of preventing a future heart attack. It's not just about preventing fat gain and not getting overweight. It's about preserving muscle. That's what this study concludes. And we took a deeper dive into this in a more recent similar analysis finding in 3 million South Korean subjects that lean muscle mass gain is cardioprotective. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of electrolytes with creatine. You know, our sister company, I'll put links below to the creatine electrolyte sticks. We have now, I think there's 412 some odd reviews in just the last year from people like you who are trying to get more mileage from exercise. So if you're not using creatine to fuel your workouts paired with electrolytes, you're missing out. I'll put links below. Definitely use the code podcast to save. And what I would like to do, my friends, is open this up to answer some of your live questions. That's why we do the lives. We want to get your questions, and we are about to do that. So I'm going to pop out the chat. Let's dive right into it. Right. They closed the churches, but left liquor stores and fast food restaurants open. Ashley, I know, what's the logic? That's insane. They closed the gyms, but you could go get marijuana, cigarettes if you would like. You can go smoke a joint. You can go buy an Old English 40, but you could not go and do a little workout. That is bad news. Getting a workout in, but yeah, go ahead and get some liquor and all sorts of other things. Okay, HMB. For the win. Yeah, HMB is okay. It's actually quite expensive. The research is, I'm going to be honest, if you're going to spend your money on an ergogenic aid, you're much better off getting an electrolyte creatine combination. For the price, for the realized effects, HMB is going to cost you about $40 a month, $50 a month, and the data is, it's okay. It's not there's not as much research supporting the effects, and it's not like you feel it right away. When you take creatine electrolyte combinations, you do feel it quite acutely. Okay. All right. Jenna says, is marijuana actually bad? So marijuana, THC, and there's various cannabinoids within cannabis and marijuana. The reason why I personally don't smoke marijuana and engage in gummies and edibles and things like that is because THC has been shown to inhibit memory formation within the hippocampus. You know that one of the regions in your brain that is primary responsible for forming and synthesizing memories is your hippocampus. THC impacts that memory formation. So that's why I don't smoke pot or use gummies or edibles or things like that, because I have found that it's not conducive to good memory. So that's just why I don't do that. Okay. What else do we have, my friends? If you grow, you own. All right. Okay. Rochelle has a great question here. If we followed the government health advice and we got a thingamajiggy, what do we do about that? Well, the number one thing I would suggest is don't stress about it. Mental stress, the brain is so powerful. You know, I share the story a lot. In World War I and World War II, when anesthesia ran out, when troops were wounded in the battlefields and so forth, many of the doctors would say they are injecting traumatic injuries. People had, amputees and so forth, limbs blown off. They would actually give these soldiers saline, but say it's morphine. And they would tell the soldier, in about 10 seconds, you're going to feel the morphine kick in and we're going to start the procedure. Guess what? The soldiers actually felt the analgesia and the pain inhibition from the morphine. So the brain is so powerful. So if you suspect that you're going to have health complications from some of the any medical procedure or drug or something, then you might even manifest that. The brain is so powerful. So the first thing I would suggest is do not stress about it. Do everything you can just to improve your health and convince yourself that you got a placebo. I really think that's the best thing to do, is just convince yourself that I must have just gotten saline, and just start to do everything you possibly can to improve cardiovascular health. So what are those things? Well, we've talked about that. Walking after meals. We know that in the post-meal window, there is a rise in glucose, there's a rise in cortisol, there's a rise in insulin, and your body can become a little bit more of a thrombic, blood clot promoting type state, especially if you've been sitting a lot, like sitting, eating on an airplane, having sugar on an airplane. Not a good tool, not a good strategy, I should say. So after you eat, go for a walk. Eat a low lower carb style diet. Focus on protein. Lift weights 3 to 5 days per week. Make sure that you're walking cumulatively throughout the day between 10 and 12,000 steps per day. You might want to increase the consumption of organs like heart. For example, beef heart, lamb heart. These are organs that contain coenzyme Q10. You can supplement with coenzyme Q10. Just doing things to support cardiovascular health. There's some evidence to suggest that potentially other enzymes, bromelain and things like that might help, but I would really just focus on your mindset. I had one client, he's in the military, and he was very concerned about various things, that he was administered over the past several years. And the number one thing that we talked about was changing the mindset from reframing what you actually got into just thinking it's saline, convincing yourself it's saline, going in the sauna, walking a lot, making sure you're not having mismatched or deranged circadian rhythms and sleep-wake cycles. So going to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time every morning, not being on your phone. Actually shift workers have a much higher prevalence of cardiovascular disease because of the shift in their sleep-wake cycles and perturbations in the circadian clock system. So it's very important, my friends, that you adhere to really strict circadian health and hygiene. So that's important. The sauna is so important for the cardiovascular system. Essentially, sauna is an exercise mimetic. It simulates or stimulates, mirrors the benefits of exercise. It doesn't circumvent exercise. It's not necessarily a replacement for exercise. It's just something that you should consider doing. So the sauna is actually very helpful for that. Getting cold on purpose. We know that deliberate cold exposure is helpful. It increases glutathione, catalase, various antioxidant enzymes that are cardioprotective. Weightlifting is cardioprotective because when you lift weights, you release myokines from your skeletal muscle. These myokines travel to the heart and they reverse pathologic changes within the cardiomyocytes. So weightlifting is very important. Stress management is very important. Maintaining good social connections, as I mentioned earlier. The heart sends more messages to the brain than vice versa. So it's very important that you have good social connections, meaningful relationships. If you're in a bad relationship, get out of it. Don't hang around narcissistic, negative people. Those things are very helpful. Also, since there was a question here about eating sardines, there's actually a test called the omega-3 index. The omega-3 index is a wonderful way to ascertain your body's levels of omega-3 fats. And this can be a helpful tool let me just break it down to you like this. An omega-3 index, most Americans are around 4.5%. There's an increased risk for having sudden cardiac death with a low omega-3 index. So I would encourage you and all of you, it's a $49 test. The company Myoscience offers it. Go to myoscience.com, check it out, omega-3 index. Just give it a try. And I find that people, they don't have optimal levels of omega-3 fats in their diet, in their body, and that can actually create abnormal rhythms and so forth within the heart. And so making sure that you have sufficient omega-3 fats in your diet. Now, when you talk about omega-3 fats, people hear PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats, and they get confused with industrial seed oils, with fish oil, totally different biochemistry, physiology, oxidation rates. And so that's a topic for another conversation, but it is important to make sure that you consider your omega-3 index. All right. Vitlia says goblet squat is better than barbell squat. Prove me wrong. Yeah, I mean, okay, I would say in context, I would say do both, not one or the other. They're both good in their own ways. If you're talking about time under tension and load, you can load a barbell squat with more weight than just a goblet squat. And more weight, you're going to get more time under tension. Okay. So that's an important thing. Hello from Ohio. Let's talk about Ohio. What the heck is going on in Ohio? We have polyvinyl chloride being burned. We have all sorts of toxic chemicals being ignited. I mean, this is an environmental catastrophe that no one is really talking about. Remember when we were told we're all in this together, so we all have to stay home, we need to wear the mask and all this, but when we're all on the same planet together, yet certain people decide that we can just ignite carcinogenic chemicals and endocrine disrupting chemicals that get dispersed all throughout the world. I thought we were all in this together. Why are we burning polyvinyl chloride and other chemical carcinogens that will have transgenerational epigenetic impacts on the health of developing babies for years to come in that region. There's been many reports of chickens dying, animals dying, fish dying in rivers and so forth. What about the children? What about the people in these communities where authorities decided it was just okay to start to ignite all these chemicals? I don't know what to make of all this stuff, my friends, but this is why I do supplement with N-acetylcysteine and glycine combinations. Very helpful for helping to support your body's antioxidant pathways. Okay. Go with the heaviest dumbbell, push to true failure, not safe with barbell. Yeah, it depends on, biomechanics and people's form and so forth, but I hear what you're saying. Instead of weights, I do body weight, calisthenics, pull-ups, chin-ups, dips, push-ups, and inertia wave rope for a metabolic workout. Hey, anonymous source, I like how you're doing it. I think it's great as long as you're consistent. That is totally cool with me. Okay. Thanks for the questions, guys and gals. And if you're enjoying this content, hit that like button. Let me know. And I am very much interested and intrigued by your questions. Zercher squat is number one. So the Zercher squat is great. A lot of people don't do that. That's a phenomenal exercise as well. All right. Jenna says, can you do a video on what actually gives high blood pressure? I thought you don't get clogged arteries if you basically don't eat sugar. I'm under the impression that animal fats are good if no sugar. Yeah, Jenna, this is a great question. So what actually increases blood pressure? Well, there's a lot of different pathophysiologic changes that can increase blood pressure. Gaining weight can increase blood pressure. Insulin resistance can increase blood pressure. Circadian rhythm dysfunction can increase blood pressure. Being stressed, blood pressure can change acutely. If you're around someone you don't like or a stressful partner in your relationship, your blood pressure will increase. So blood pressure is multifactorial. There's a lot of different ways that blood pressure can increase. Now, can we say that meat does or doesn't increase blood pressure? Well, it probably depends on the preparation of the meat, who's eating the meat, where the meat came from, is there sugar in it? I mean, there's a lot of that. But it's a little bit not specific enough to say if you eat meat and not sugar, you will lower blood pressure. Again, blood pressure is multifactorial. There's a lot going on. Being dehydrated can increase blood pressure. One modality that has been, several modalities that have been shown to reduce blood pressure are exercise, walking, making sure you're going to bed on time and waking up at the same time, i.e. circadian rhythm, health and hygiene, and going in the sauna. Those are great ways to support blood pressure health. Okay. Nattokinase. So nattokinase and serrapeptidase and trypsin and chymotrypsin and trypsinogen, these are all enzymes, systemic enzymes that can be helpful. I do think potentially nattokinase has a role here for helping, especially when you're sedentary, when you're traveling, when you're not exercising as much after surgery. I have a really sad story about an employee of mine who recently died after a surgery. And it has to do with, he was in this age category of 25 to 44 and he had a heart attack and died. This was 2 weeks ago, unfortunately. I'm going to his funeral on Friday. His name is Greg. Very sad that he's no longer with us. And, these are all things that, I wish he potentially was taking during the surgery. And afterwards, he didn't really consult with me on ideas and stuff. He just said he was going to move around more. And he didn't. And he had a blood clot and unfortunately died. And would nattokinase have saved him and prevented that? Potentially. I'm not sure. There's a lot of things. He did drink sugar and Coke and Pepsi. And, I was trying to help him with some of those dietary strategies. But unfortunately, it seems that clotting and heart disease related complications are on the rise. Okay. This is really sad. Okay. Guitar Jams Beyond says cold plunges are beneficial, but they actually decrease muscle hypertrophy or mythically false. So this is a good question. The timing of the cold plunge matters. So think about what happens during exercise. We actually create acute inflammation. When you're doing resistance training, believe it or not, you're increasing inflammation. That inflammation is helpful. That's why you don't want to take antioxidants after you go to the gym, because the antioxidants blunt the signaling molecules that are released from your muscles that help create the hypertrophy and get the benefits. So this is why you don't take antioxidants or aspirin or things like that after a workout. In the similar fashion, we know that cold exposure decreases acute inflammation. So this is why you would not want to do a cold plunge right after a resistance training workout, because you might suppress hypertrophy or reduce it. And so that's why it is helpful to maybe do cold plunges in the morning. From a circadian rhythm health standpoint, cold plunges and your body's core temperature is lowest in the morning. So it makes sense to take your cold shower, your cold plungers in the morning, and then work out later in the day or later in that morning. Anonymous source, great comment. Anonymous source says vitamin D and magnesium deficiency can cause high blood pressure. Absolutely. There's a lot of research showing that deficiency of these two compounds can increase blood pressure. Great comment there. Thank you for that. Okay. What are your thoughts on a carnivore diet? I think in context, carnivore diets make a lot of sense. For my clients who are overweight and just trying to hit the reset button, I think the carnivore diet's the easiest thing you can do. If you have to lose 10 or 15 pounds, especially in short order, a carnivore diet's a great reset. If you have intestinal issues like IBS, Crohn's, colitis, if you have a lot of food sensitivities, I think the carnivore diet does make a lot of sense. So, I'm a fan of that. So definitely consider that. Okay. Espresso Yourself says, what is the thing that they want everyone to get? Express Yourself, I think you're onto something. I really do. Thank you for being here. Joseph Jones says, cold plunges should be less frequent than cold showers. Cold showers are awesome for resetting your internal thermostat and improves immune system energy preservation. Yeah, well, so do cold plunges. A cold plunge is just a slightly more intense cold shower, right? If we think about it. So you highlighted all the benefits of the cold shower. Well, those benefits are also part of a cold plunge. Great point, though. Okay. Unknown user says, most CoQ10 or ubiquinol supplements have soy oil. Yeah, don't support companies that sell soy oil in their crap. That's not good. No good, but great question. Or a comment, rather, I should say. Okay, what else do we have here? Thanks for the comments, friends. And again, thanks for hitting the like button. Really appreciate that. Philip says, why buy $40 worth of Omega? Why bother testing? Yeah, Philip, this is a good point. Why even bother testing your omega-3 index? You might be saying, and let me just give you guys and gals a screenshot of the omega-3 index. I'll throw it on here so that you have an idea where you can get this and things like that. And this is just a tool that you can use, and to get an idea about whether or not you have a low omega-3 index. A lot of people are unaware that the correlation or the connection between a low omega-3 index and poor cardiovascular health and so forth. And so what I did want to do is just sort of share this with you. We've done a lot of research, reviews, and episodes with Bill Harris over at Omega Quant. So here's the omega-3 index. It's a $49 test. You do use the code podcast and you save on that. But the omega-3 index will enumerate or quantify the omega-3 fatty acid ratios and composition within your red blood cells. And so again, I think this is a helpful idea for some people. Some people are eating fish in the diet and they may not even want to supplement. And so just knowing where your diet is at, and again, you want to be north of 8%. Especially in the context of what we're talking about here with regards to supporting heart health. So the omega-3 index is just a tool. And so what I'll do is I'll just minimize this so that you can see this. But this is interesting stuff. I think, people should be aware of what's testing is good. I think it just helps people to see objectively their nutritional status and so on. Okay, my chat went away. I'm sorry, friends. Where is, here we go. Oh, we're back. Okay. But Philip, great question there. Okay. I do take Wim Hof style showers, the commenter says. Great cardio and exercise in itself. Burr. Yeah, it is a good strategy for sure. I am with you. Okay. Isn't it sad that if you purchase soy oil anywhere, it likely does not have any magnesium in it? Yes, this is true. Magnesium is hard to come by. For sure. Joseph Jones says the higher omega-3s the higher the brain tissue quality. Yeah, so the brain is enriched in DHA and so forth. So yeah, great question. All right, what else do we have? What other questions, friends? I bathed in a river for 3 years. I'm good. Okay, I like that. That is awesome. Mike, is there anything to help fight the chemical exposure in the train derailment in Ohio? Yeah, so remember chemical exposure and detoxification. The way that you get rid of chemicals is by sweating, is by going poop. So making sure you're pooping on a regular basis, making sure you have quality bowel movements, and making sure you're sweating through both exercise and the sauna. So those are things that you can do. You can supplement with N-acetylglycine combinations. I do like the NAC Glycine Supreme by Myoscience. No one has anything like that when it comes to the dose of NAC and glycine. Very high potent there. So, detoxification is something we should all focus on. It's not just people in Ohio and Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania. It's everywhere. There are chemical carcinogens, diesel exhaust. Our environment is loaded with crap. It's in our food, it's in our food packaging, it's in our clothing, it's in our furniture, it's in our water, it's in our air. We should all be considering supporting glutathione. I think it's a tragedy, of course, what happened in Ohio and the consequences of that for all of us. It's a tragedy. It's really bad. But we all need a reminder to focus on detoxification. So if I lived in that area, I would be in the sauna a ton. I would be exercising. I would making sure that my water is filtered. I would, there'd be a lot of things that I would do and support N-acetylcysteine and glycine. So yeah, it's a travesty what happened there and the consequences that we'll all suffer from as a result. Okay. Carbon filters for the HVAC and so forth. Yeah, carbon filtration for your forced air for sure. That's awesome, Anthony. Anthony got a sauna because of us. Definitely check out if you're interested in a sauna. High Tech Health. They make the best at-home infrared sauna. High Tech Health. Tell them that High Intensity Health sent you. They are an amazing company. Okay, what do I think of tryptophan when it comes to sleep? It's okay. Some people it works, some people it doesn't. But with any supplement, you need to believe that it's going to work. The mind is very powerful. So I would, that there's other things: L-theanine, GABA, taurine, magnesium. Those I think are a little bit more helpful than just tryptophan. To be honest. What's the best magnesium food source? Yeah, that's a good question. Animal products have magnesium. Chocolate has magnesium. I haven't looked in a long time. There's not a lot of magnesium in the diet, but you might want to consider supplementing with magnesium if you don't eat a whole foods diet. If you're eating processed foods, you're basically getting no magnesium. So that's a great question. You know what? We just talked about the natural disasters, Alex, SDB, and pollution. So, but sauna, sweating, regular bowel movements, and supporting N-acetylglycine combinations are as amino acids to help support glutathione. Opinions on extended fasting for weight loss health? Yeah, fasting can be super helpful for health, my friends. Yeah, Martha talks about ashwagandha. I'm going to get to that for sleep. Thank you for that. I almost forgot about that, Martha. Fasting can be helpful. I really do. But I don't recommend extended fasting if you're also resistance training. Extended fasting and resistance training are mutually exclusive, principles. They're of course both healthy independently, but you're not going to get most of the benefits from your resistance training session if you're also doing extensive fasting. So just think about that. Focus on resistance training, and I think just skipping dinner. Instead of doing these extended fasts, eat breakfast, eat lunch, don't eat dinner. I think most people would benefit from that. Eat early, sleep early, train early. But Mintha had a great comment. She says, I've tried the Myoscience ashwagandha sleep aid. This can be very helpful too. It's not 100%. Not everyone will get a huge shift in their sleep, but a lot of people do report it to be quite helpful. Well, my friends, as always, I'm so grateful that you're here. If you're here right now, please hit that like button. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for leaving us comments. And I appreciate you sharing this live video. If you want more live sessions, just let me know in the comments below. We'll be back with you next week. Have a great podcast coming tomorrow, all about toxicity. And then we have another podcast about endocrine disrupting chemicals posting this weekend and breast cancer. So super excited that you're here with us. Have an awesome evening or morning, wherever you are in the world. And we will catch you in a future episode down the road. Until then, be well. Bye, y'all.